What's up, everybody, and welcome to the No BS Real Estate Show, a podcast that gives you an inside look on how to make smart financial decisions while adding value to your life. I'm Matty Miller with ERA Real Estate, alongside my co-host and real estate investor extraordinaire, Ryan Robbins. Whether you're a long-time investor or a first-time buyer, join us as we dig through the everyday bullshit of real estate. Ryan Robbins, what's going on, man?
Matty Miller, what's happening?
How are we?
New location.
New location. We're here live at Good Chi Coffee in Jacksonville, in the Mandarin neighborhood, which is my hood. It's my stomping
in your hood.
grounds. Here to talk a little bit about new versus resale.
Old.
So new versus old. What's the best deal? What to look for? What are the main differences as far as new construction versus old? Where are you gonna from a pricing perspective, from what you're going to have to do to the property, and just kind of your different options on what to do. And we deal with this all the time in our area because everybody's like, well, why would I buy that house when I can just go down the road and build this new one? Well, I don't know always the answer to that because it depends on what people want.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to preference.
Absolutely.
So before we jump into that, a few housekeeping points.
Correct.
So episode 21.
I'm glad you reminded me. Normally I forget that stuff. I just get into it.
We almost skipped right over this. So episode 21.
Okay. 21 episodes.
21 episodes, and we still have not reached our 5 email goal to give away that $25 Amazon gift card.
We still currently have 2, Dan and Lauren.
We've got $25 to Amazon on the line. We need 3 emails, and that's going away.
Titus.
Or I say going away.
Guys, Titus, subject title, Matty at mattysells.com. That's it. $25 Amazon gift card. There's 2
We
of
need
them.
3 emails.
We need 3 more.
And that drawing goes down. The other thing is YouTube. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, get over to our YouTube channel. We've got just over 30 subscribers.
Shooting for 100 by the end of the year.
I was going to say the end of the, maybe this month will be a little tight. End of next month, end of July would be awesome. And we could get a custom channel name. Right now, where we've got
how many we need? 100.
We've got a 27-letter, variation of what it is. But then you can type in No BS Real Estate Podcast, and we'll pop up.
That'd be fantastic.
So at least as far as the username goes. So get over there, hit subscribe, just make an account, just make us feel good. We want to feel popular on every facet. So.
I mean, we're not overly popular. We're just 2 guys who like to talk about real estate. But if we can,
we like to feel popular.
Yeah, it's really not about us though, even though it kind of is at the same time.
It's about us. Don't let them fool you. It's about us.
Yeah, no, it really is. Actually, it's about giving out free content to people that to kind of arm themselves to make the best smart financial decisions.
And free gift cards. Go to Amazon.
And free gift cards. It's about free gift cards too.
Don't go to Amazon.
Yeah, it's about free.
Go to your
cards.
email. Email Matty.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. New versus old.
New versus old. So, quite literally, I had, and I'll just start with a story here. And this we didn't have a No Friday bullshit episode last week.
No, we're going to do it. We're holding ourselves to it this week.
So, I'm going to give you a story, and this has to do with absolutely new construction.
Okay.
Versus old. Kind of. Okay. So, in a very new part of town, i.e. northern St. Johns County, i.e. something that starts with knock and ends with a T in our area. So if you know what that is, I had a lady that was referred to me that was looking to buy a new home, and she quite literally called me and said, "Hey, I'm already pre-approved. The pre-approval came from the lender."
Okay.
So she referred it over to me. It was a friend of hers, kind of in a roundabout way, but anyway, came from her. She said, "Hey, I have this house that's in this community that I really want to be in, and this is where I want to be. I'm moving from out of state. This is where I want to retire. This is what I want to do." Okay, great. Hey, I can meet you down there this afternoon. Let's go take a look at the property. Let's check it out. So what do? I go meet her this afternoon. We look at the property. It's pretty much everything she wants for the most part, from what I understand. Just met this lady. She's got a family member with her, and they're looking at it, and they're like, okay, this will work. This will be great. I did want to check into another property that may be building it on a different lot. Okay? So here was the deal. We went over and looked at that lot with her. she decides that she's going to go ahead and just build the new construction one versus buy the one that was already built. Because something happened, they built the new house, and the person never lived in it, so it was basically brand new.
Essentially new, yeah.
You just got to see it. No one had ever lived in it. So anyway, they basically got it all approved. She calls me last Friday and tells me that, hey, she's got it off. She's got the contract all in this house. Everything's ready to go, and she doesn't need my help. So
now you're getting cut out.
Cut me out of the deal, which is really funny because I also have an exclusive buyer agreement that I'm about to go back this afternoon and throw that in the side agent's face and be like, hey, by the way.
Are we arguing the agent's new versus old here or what?
No, I don't care about that. But anyway, it comes down to, for her, this property was already built. So for her, it was, I got to pick out my own finishes versus...
You're kind of stuck with what was already there.
You're kind of stuck with what was already there. So it depends on what you want. Like, I think a lot of people, they prefer to see what they're getting into versus anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that's fair for a lot of people. For me, I think it's easier to see what's there as opposed to a rendering or just a bunch of options come together. And the other biggest misconception about new construction is that everything's going to be perfect. There's going to be things that are wrong. There's going to be things that contractors miss. They mess up. You know, hey, they may build it in the wrong spec or they put it on the wrong. I've seen houses where they're like, oh, well, hey, it's on this lot, but we actually screwed it up and they poured the slab 10 foot farther back on the lot. So now your front yard's huge, but you have no backyard. Like things like that really screw with things.
I think we probably brought it up before too in other episodes, but you've got a same home inspection that you're going to have on an old construction home. You have that on a new construction before you move in because, to your point, they miss things.
Yeah,
there's outlets that don't get connected. There's dings in walls. You know, chips in floors. Yeah, everything.
I mean, all sorts of things. So anyway, there's, some of the advantages of going through new homes. I think the most distinctive one right now is in the times of the smart homes and new safety features in homes. A lot of these houses that are newer built now are going to be, you're going to have all your wiring for your security system, for your Ring doorbell, for your all that stuff's already going to be pre-wired,
integrated and good to go. Yeah,
integrated. Hell, I've even seen some ones that have freaking touch pads to control everything in your house when you go into them. So
I would say that's probably the number one biggest advantage to buying new.
Yeah,
pick your design. For the most part, if you're going custom, you can quite literally design your home from the ground up. There's a lot of these. KB, Lennar, most of that's cookie cutter. You pick, one of 3 or 4 plans that they're offering. Here's your 6 colors you get to choose from, so on and so forth, and that's that. But you can pick out your granite, you can pick out your cabinet color, and you customize that way. But you're not necessarily customizing a floor plan. But overall, by and large, building new, to me, comes down to design, customization, and truly being able to pick and choose exactly what you're looking for.
Yep. One other nice thing is all your appliances are brand new. When you buy resale, you have to worry about, do I have to replace the appliances? It might be an additional cost. That's one other thing to think about.
I would say a new home, probably easier when it comes to financing. Mm-hmm. So again, it's new. Older homes, depending on what type of financing you're getting, may not qualify just because of certain restrictions, with those lending procedures. So again, buying new, for the most part, it's going to fall under any lending program.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, when you go to a builder and you go to finance it, they're going to give you a lender credit. That's probably more than what a traditional lender is going to get on a resale. So there's advantages of going through that route as well. Newer homes are better insulated. So from a utilities perspective or a cost perspective overall, that's going to help you in the long run. Typically better insulated, not always. That's why I said everything is newer and nicer with a new home. That's not always the case.
So this could kind of be a comparison a bit. Older homes, I would say, are, I want to say better built. I mean, a little bit of discrimination there. But
how quickly the new
builds
go up.
I would say, yeah. I'll just say that I'd say older homes are generally better built. More time went into the overall construction of an older home because they weren't putting them up, hundreds or thousands at a time over an area.
Correct. Yeah, I think that the demand of new homes, not only in our area but across the country, is kind of crazy. If you look at the population of not only the United States or not only Jacksonville or not only the world, you're kind of on, definitely a J curve. So I guess for the camera, the population grows and grows and grows, and once it gets to a point where all of a sudden it just goes rapid.
Yeah.
And we're at that point right now where the population growth is going
crazy.
So new homes need to be built left and right all over the place. And, in 1920, when the population of Jacksonville was 300,000 people, now all of a sudden we're at close to 3 million in our entire First Coast area. It's a little bit different on how many houses you need to build.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that half the houses back then were built by the people that lived in them. They built them by hand.
And that's a lot
laid them brick by brick, so to speak.
And quite literally brick by brick. What we see, a lot of older homes built in the 50s, 60s, we always say, is it, block or stick or brick or stick? And stick is quite literally just a, again, 2x4 frame house. Yeah. Yep. And that's what you see a lot of. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, but from a structural standpoint, especially living in a hurricane-prone area, you're going to feel more secure in a concrete block home.
I was talking to a friend.
Something that's built by 2x4s.
I was talking to a friend of mine. He lives out in Jacks Beach, and he's got quite literally a stick-built home that has basically stucco on the sides. And for those of you that don't know, in other areas of the country, stucco is basically, for lack of a better term, it's mud on the side of the house.
I don't even know how I would describe it aside from that.
It's basically mud stuck to,
almost like a cementous mud.
It's cementous, basically, is what it is, but it's not necessarily anything that's solid. It's literally pasted and rubbed on. It's a cement on the side of your house, and quite literally, a lot of the times it's stuck to wood, and it doesn't necessarily always stick to wood. So it chips off, it breaks off.
It truly comes down to
who did it, how did they do it.
What the process was.
I will tell you that we're getting away from stucco homes in the state of Florida. We're going to more hardy board now, which is probably the best building material that we've seen in the last 30 years outside of brick and block, which is fantastic. So,
which is also a cementous board.
It's a cementous board, but it's cement fiber.
Correct.
So there's fibers that tie it all together, which is pretty crazy. So if you do hardy lap siding, which is cement with fiber tying it together, that's about as solid as you're going to get.
And it's going to almost appear as a vinyl siding would look. It's going to give you the same type of look.
Vinyl. Yeah, it's a little bit thicker, but it looks very similar.
It's going to last quite literally forever.
Yep.
So, and again, you can get the T111, which is the old wood siding. You can get the hardy siding now.
Let's start right there. So if you're going to go buy a resale house with T111, I don't know why we used it so much in the state of Florida.
Assume you're going to change it all out.
Assume you're going to change it all out. That's for sure. So T111 is just some terrible, terrible stuff that you have to deal with. So if you buy a house with T111 on it, go ahead and make sure that you're going to put that in your budget to replace it. Well, no, don't replace. Repair with hardy, or
you're going to end up replacing it with hardy. Yeah.
So that's definitely one thing. As far as building materials, like I said, Ryan mentioned, older homes and these newer homes. The newer homes in general are quite literally, they're built very fast. I don't think that there's as much care involved with the newer homes today as there was. When somebody built a home in 1850, they were like, this thing's going to last 150 years or 200 years. I'm looking at new homes today, and I'm going, I don't think there's any way half these are going to last for 200 years.
I'd be shocked to see some of those around.
Yeah. What northern St. Johns County will look like, which, not picking on St. Johns, it's just everything's brand new, and it's not necessarily built. Everything's brand new to building standards of 2010.
I think what a lot of people like to put in the back of their mind as well is maintenance. Homes need love and care just like anything else. Yeah. And what I see oftentimes in these new neighborhoods is they're new and upkept, and everybody is all excited about it in the beginning, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, hey, we don't have to do this, we don't have to do that because it's new. Well, then 5 or 10 years from now, you haven't kept up with cleaning your windows or cleaning your siding or your gutters or whatever that may be, and now these items that, again, have a lifespan have now, that deterioration process has been sped up because you haven't done any preventative maintenance on the front side. So often we see that a lot with newer communities where, again, a KB came in years ago and built $200,000 homes. Well, the kicker is now, 5 years later, they're not worth $250 like everything else is appreciating in the market. They're worth 150 or 170 because they've actually, there's more maintenance required to keep up with that at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, and that's one of those things you're talking about, stucco versus, a true red brick home. A brick's not going to deteriorate in 150 years.
No.
It just doesn't happen. Concrete block will basically stand forever. You can't damage it. So to where stucco with some studs, wood rots, by the way, guys. So wood does rot, especially today's modern 2x4, which, by the way, isn't even 2 foot by 4 foot, or 2 inches by 4 inches. It's not. It's 1.5 inches by 3.5. So when they actually had original 2x4s in old houses, when they used to start building stick-built homes, those were actual 2x4s. They are not original 2x4s anymore. They are 3.5 by 1.5. So they're even smaller. So they've shrinked that stud, so to say, even more than what they used to. So there's a lot of different things that go into old homes versus new homes. And I think we're going to check on the camera here real quick, and then we're going to get into what are the benefits of buying a resale home.
We're good. We're still rocking and rolling. I'm going to restart it here as we're going.
Yeah. So go ahead. Make sure we don't lose that.
We're good.
What are the benefits of buying a resale home? And the things that I work primarily in resale, I don't do as much new construction, partly because in our industry there's been a segregation of new construction versus resale. So if you're an agent and you're doing primarily resale, you're probably working for a builder and you are working strictly as a side agent for the most part. There are agents in our industry that do a lot of new construction. But
to your point, you're kind of targeting that.
You got to do that to start.
Yeah, you're taking that market on and focusing there and putting most of your efforts there as well.
Correct. So, and there's less, to me, it's not as fun. There's less negotiation involved. It's like, hey, well, here's the new build and here's what we do. Like, I can't get you a great deal on a new construction house.
It's I would say it's different negotiation. You're negotiating different terms.
Yeah, it's totally different.
It comes more into play with what's your relationship with the builder, because again, they're only going to be able to go down so far. Still costs. Sure. There's still material cost and a labor cost to any build in that rate. Yeah,
and I think that the one thing that I like about resale homes is kind of being able to get to make the house your home. And what I mean by that is you get to make some cosmetic improvements. You get to make this. You get to kind of be creative with what it's kind of a blank canvas. And I know it seems the opposite from a resale perspective. Like, hey, I can change. Like, if it's got good bones and you can envision what you can do to that property. Like, we bought our house a year and a half ago. I think she looked at me like I was a little bit crazy. And I was like, no. I think we can do this, and this, and it'll be fantastic. And she's like, okay, all right. Yeah, okay. She kind of didn't want to say anything, but it's like, no, I really think this will work. This will be perfect. I think, and the end result, obviously, I got an itch on my back here. I'm not going to lie to you.
Come over here, I'll scratch it for you.
Yeah, thank God we're not on like national television or anything, because that'd be a bad thing if I just like lean back in my chair to scratch my back. And I think making it your own and being able to do some improvements, where you do a new build and you upgraded your floors and all of a sudden you don't like them. You just paid to upgrade the floors already. Now you got to go redo them. Like, it's one of those things.
Not in the budget, no.
Not in the budget. So you are also trying to get, like I said, home improvements are fun, and where you can negotiate on those principles too. So, hey, this house has a lot of work to do. I'm going to negotiate strictly on that. So you can find a deal when it comes to resale versus new construction.
Yeah, and typically your resale, to your point of finding that's going to have more character, not only that, but once you do those renovations, it's going to bring that market value up overall. Where, again, if you're buying a new build in a new neighborhood,
you're not going to swap out
that flooring. Yeah. You're not doing it for any purpose aside from your own, personal.
You're not getting a lot of equity in your new builds.
You're not getting anything at that point.
Nothing.
No. And you're taking a gamble there because an older neighborhood's established. It's been there for a while. Prices are the prices. You don't know what's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now. The neighborhood isn't kept up with.
Can I compare it to buying a new car versus a used car? Minus the fact that a car is always a depreciating asset.
Not always. Depends on the car.
99%. 99%. Okay. Minus the random Porsche they don't build anymore that is worth more money the years go on. That is
so I don't know if that's going to be a good comparison then. in general, because if it's going to always depreciate, I guess it's going to depreciate at a different rate.
I guess my point is, you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot. Boom, you never had equity in a car, but the gap between what you owe and what it's worth is bigger than buying a used car.
Correct.
To where I think the gap between what you owe and what it's worth on a used house, that you can close that gap by making improvements very simply, as opposed to a new home. You're already right up next to each other.
Yeah, you're not.
You get a deal and you add a little bit. Now, boom, it's worth here. We can close that gap a little bit farther away, and make that work.
Well, oftentimes, at least what we've seen is, unless the market's appreciating extremely quickly, again, your new build's going to stall out a little bit, because no one's going to pay more for your house that's a year or two old, and when they can go down the street and buy the same thing for brand new build at the same price or cheaper.
Correct.
So you're limited on essentially your appreciation window. And it truly depends on who the neighbors are, what HOA is being managed by, and things like that. Because if the neighborhood's not kept up with, well, all of that can get turned in the opposite direction very quickly.
Sure, yeah. I think one of the things I want to hit on, and I think this is very important to me, and it's kind of why Jacksonville, Florida is a very big city. It's actually one of the largest cities in the United States as far as land mass is considered.
It's the largest.
Well, it is the largest city. Did I say one of?
One of.
Sorry, it is the largest city in the United States.
Still makes it one of, I guess.
Yeah, it is. One thing I want to make sure that people understand is that most of your new construction neighborhoods are way outside the city. So it is extending your commute, your convenience to a lot of things. Like, it is a long way. If you have to travel downtown and work in our city, you're looking at an hour to an hour and 20-minute commute almost every day. If you're coming from northern St. Johns County, you get caught up in traffic from 9 to 5, and you got to go downtown. It's a long way every single day, okay? Along with traffic. And I understand a lot of people do. I mean, it's not Chicago, it's not LA, it's not New York, where most people don't even actually have cars. You have to have a car to live in our city. It's kind of impossible not to.
Car, you're taking a
bus. Public transit.
That's about it.
Public transit isn't exactly cutting it in Jacksonville. That's the one negative part, just because it's such a large city.
There's a water taxi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's water taxis. We have water taxis, too. So your older homes are often in more convenient metro areas. And you're, obviously, because they're older, they've been there for a while, and a lot of your stuff, a lot of your entertainment, your dining districts, all that stuff is typically in very convenient neighborhoods that's probably in the city and it's been established. We go to San Marco a lot, and it's 15 minutes away from us. So a lot of people do that, but they're starting to build, like, you look at, again, picking on St. John's, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but there's not a ton of places out there to really go have entertainment. There's not. I mean, there is, but there isn't.
Well, you had brought up Nocatee. They're building a mini community within itself there to kind of self-sustain.
But they're trying to make everybody else pay for it.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah, and those come along with your HOAs and your CDDs in areas like that. Now, parts of St. John's are starting to build shopping centers. They're coming around, but to the point of some of these communities have been there for 10 plus years.
Yeah,
and now we're talking they're just building a Home Depot and a Walmart or whatever else they're bringing in down there.
St. John's, used to go to a hardware store, you had to travel 30 miles away.
You quite literally had to probably drive 20 minutes or 30 minutes just to get to a Home Depot.
Yeah,
so
the Home Depot, the nearest Home Depot was up on Southside Boulevard.
And
that was, if you're living out in St. John's, you're living out in Southampton or whatever, which has been there for 15, 20 years. That's a 30-minute ride just to go to Home Depot. To where I live, it's 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah,
and things like that. So the other side is, typically Home Depots and Lowe's, they won't build in neighborhoods that aren't at least 10 to 15 years old, because they know that the demand for their supplies is not there, which is kind of crazy. So that's a whole other issue. One of the other things that you want to talk about, obviously, when you're talking about resale versus new construction, is school systems. School systems are one of these things that I think that every community fights, especially when you're in a large metro area. School systems in most large metro areas, as far as your public schools, aren't as good as your suburban schools. And I think Jacksonville, actually, if you want to look at your top 30 metro school districts in those cities, Jacksonville is actually one of the better ones, which is kind of shocking to me, as much as people want to bash the public school systems all the time. There are good schools and there are bad schools. Every single city has that. Don't get me wrong. Do we have our own issues in Jacksonville Public Schools? Of course we do. But so does Atlanta, so does Detroit, so does Chicago, so does New York, and not saying we're all those cities.
Yeah.
Miami's got their own issues. Tampa's got their own issues. Tallahassee's got them all. All your, 2.5 million plus towns have those issues as well. The nice part is St. John's, positive for them. One of the best public school districts in the United States. I don't know about the United States, but at least Florida.
Well, no, I was going to say
it is
Florida.
At one point, it was the best public schools county in Florida. Clay County, same thing. It's got pretty decent schools.
I think St. John still is. It is.
I believe it still is. I haven't looked it up in a while, but I knew at one point it was. Resale homes. Last one I'll hit on kind of on this is we're not quite up against it yet, but we're getting there. Property taxes and cost on resale homes. Typically, most of your resale homes, especially your older ones, especially pre-1980s, very few HOAs pre-1980 home. That's just a cost that is built in a lot of the time. So pre-1980, the HOA buzz really started to happen in like the mid-90s. Like, hey, we need to have all these rules about what you can and can't do to your house. I personally hate HOAs. Can't stand them. I want to be able to do improvements when I want, how I want to do them, and
You have anywhere you're at?
nope.
Okay.
Nope. It did at one point have one.
So you're on the border of where they kind of start to trickle in there.
My house was built in 1987. Yeah. So you're starting to just south of me is a lot of HOA communities. Yep. And north of me, there's a few scattered in through here, but not many. Most people, so HOAs, CDD fees, which we haven't even hit on CDDs yet. In your newer built communities, your CDDs, what does CDD stand for?
Community Development District. So essentially they're responsible for your roadways, your lights, your sidewalks, your common areas, things like that, where essentially it's built, the HOA manages it, the city doesn't keep up with it. So CDDs fall into your taxes. They're pulled and paid for through your taxes, but
sometimes you have a contribution to it when you buy the house.
Yeah, so either you can essentially pay, maybe you're going to pay $10,000 or $20,000 more, and your CDDs yearly will be less, or you're going to pay less up front, and your CDDs will be more throughout the year.
They won't always be there, so they'll go away.
Well, some will. It truly depends on and that's what's kind of interesting. Which oftentimes, again, if you're buying a house and you think, hey, my taxes just happen to be $4,000 a year. Well, yours may be $4,000. Your neighbor's has the same house, maybe $3,000, and that could be because whoever originally bought your house didn't pay the CDDs down, but they did. So those are all costs to take into consideration when buying an older home, but that's still within an HOA. Or again, if you're buying a new build, are you going to pay those down, or are you not going to pay those? And again, some of them, to your point, go on quite literally forever. Others, maybe it's paid out over the next 10 or 15 years, and then they'll go away.
Some of them are even as short as 5. They're just literally charging you to basically build the rest of the subdivision, and once the subdivision is done,
essentially a way of splitting the financing costs across everybody that lives in the community.
Correct. Yeah, so the HOA will actually kind of manage that, and then be like, oh, well, the CDD should be done in 5 years. All of a sudden, 7 years later, you're still paying that CDD, but nothing's being built.
Yeah.
That's my biggest issue with master plan communities. There's a lot of them in Florida that they seem to, when things get really expensive and homeowners go, especially when the economy hits the fan. When things get expensive, i.e. pools, workout facilities, those things like that, they get overran. And when it's not privatized business, like your LA Fitness or your whatever pool and yacht club or whatever it is, when an HOA manages it, those people that are running the HOA, they don't get paid a whole lot. So they're not going to fight for a lot of things. There's probably more embezzlement in HOAs than about any other industry in the world. We've heard all sorts of stories. So, and typically when you're a homeowner in a master plan community and the economy goes to shit and and they say to you, hey, well, we have to do a special assessment on you for $300 a month for the next 24 months, and you're already up against it, and you don't pay that. At one point in time in some of the HOAs in Jacksonville, 60% of the special assessments, which that's a special assessment is basically when, let's say 20 years down the road, that Nocatee has to replace 2 pools and whatever, and they don't do their budgeting right, and they have to make a special assessment to every person in the community. And let's say the economy's not real good, and we've had people lose jobs. Those people aren't going to pay that money.
Yeah, no.
They're not going to. They're just going to give you a big middle finger and say, suck it, I'm not paying that money. I don't have the money to give you. I don't. I have the money to pay my mortgage, but that's it. Like, I don't have any extra money. But all it takes is 25 or 30% of homeowners to say, F you. Then your facilities get run down, that you're trying to manage, all those things happen. Like, when the economy's great, master plan communities, fantastic. When the economy goes into shit, look over the time of history, they tend to kind of flop and become these weird, I live in this master plan. When I say master plan, I'm talking like 500 houses or more in a community. I'm not talking your 120 unit subdivision with a pool.
Yeah, I was going to say, and most of that, there's not much upkeep there anyway.
There's not much upkeep. But you got a pool and a little tiny clubhouse.
Yeah,
that you
if
can
there's
rent
even
out.
A pool, oftentimes it's a sign at your entrance to the neighborhood, and that's it,
Yeah, or whatever, something like that. So while all those things seem great, sometimes, when you get into the grand scheme of things, those master plan communities tend to have their drawbacks when the economy goes down. And I hope the economy doesn't go down anytime soon for our sake, because we make more money in an up economy, except me. I like good recession from a property management standpoint. When people can't sell their homes, I get more business.
You got to rent it out.
I always say that in my networking group. I'm like, who loves a good recession? This guy. And everybody's like, why would you say that? And I'm like, no, because when people can't sell their homes, I make freaking money.
You can't sell and you can't buy. And you
can't
got to
sell,
rent.
can't buy, and you got to move. You're renting your house. Yep. They come to me. I help them rent their house. I help them get through a hardship. Is it always easy? Hell no. People got a lot of issues going on. So
I would say a lot of that HOA issues you just brought up come back to you. Come back to management. Now, maybe you're not managing communities, but at the end of the day, whoever's managing that community is managed by some group, and their mishandling of the budgets is going to cost everybody in the long run. Oftentimes, you're going to see special assessments more in a condo complex, something like that, where we need to redo all these roofs, or we need to redo all the parking lot, whatever the heck that may be. That's generally, you're going to see special assessments there more than you're ever going to see inside of a community, I would say.
Typically, if they've managed their budgets right. So you've seen some people that have said, they don't charge it, or there's embezzlement, or something like that, or the company just screws things up and or like I said, and sometimes it's not the management.
Quick story on special assessments and how it can screw people, because looked at a condo, this was back the end of last year in Jacksonville Beach. And this is where, small issues that aren't handled with management can turn into large issues. So this is a small building, and it was in South Jacks Beach. There's 12 units. Okay. And it's a building on stilts. So again, the first, you basically drive underneath the building, park underneath. Okay. 12 units are above it. Well, throughout the years, maintenance hasn't been upkept with. So now a lot of the balconies have rotted out. A lot of safety issues. Stairwells are having issues, so on and so forth. Well, they've got numerous quotes, all between like 1.1 and 1.8 million. Okay, well, guess what? That's not just, paid for out of the air. That falls back onto the owners of the building, which again, if you're in a place with 500 homes or 500 condos and you got to split $1 million, still a decent amount of money, but deal, right? Nothing crazy. You've got 12 units. You've got to pay $1.2 million to make it easy. Hey, guess what? It's $100,000 worth of special assessments that those units are responsible for. How are you as an owner?
5 years?
And that's where it comes into play. Oftentimes, you've now got to negotiate out with a bank or something else to try to build that in over time. But okay, even $100,000 over 30 years, it's still going to be essentially another mortgage at $500 a month or $600 a month extra. How do you pay that if you haven't accounted for it when you purchase the property?
So that's so just for anybody keeping track at home, if you finance that with no interest, by the way, $1 million in 12 units, that's $1,600 a month.
How many
for 60 months? Yeah. So that's not.
It's no joke. Yeah.
Well, that's not actually right, because it's $1 million divided by 12. And that number is 8.
It'd be what, 80? What's that, 80,000 a unit?
80,000 a unit.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
come on, you don't got a calculator 12. Out here? My computer's about to die here, so I'm not going to be much use. Let's see.
Yeah, it ends up being $1,388.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
With no
so
interest.
$1,388. Yeah, so almost $1,400 a month over 60 months. Now, you might stretch that out over 10 to get that payment down, but now you have to find a bank and somebody who's going to finance that deal.
But either way, okay, stretch it out with zero interest, you're still at almost $700 a month for 10 years.
It's kind of crazy.
This was in an area where market value prior to the special assessments coming up was it's a $200,000 to $250,000. So your mortgage on that, typically, depending on when you bought it, could be $1,000 or $1,500.
Yeah.
Like it's almost half of another mortgage.
$3,000 a month just to live in that place.
Yeah,
that's craziness. So, well, you got anything else? I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, we did some housekeeping stuff at the beginning of the episode. We need people to send us emails, Titus@mattysells.com or Matty@mattysells.com. We need to hit that up, stuff like that. I hope you enjoyed us talking a little bit about new construction and just bringing up some topics. If anybody has any questions out there about new construction stuff and what, maybe what else it might entail, or if you have a question about, hey, should I do this, should I do that, give us a call. One thing I didn't hit up on, new construction, if you're thinking about making it your forever home, go ahead and do new construction. Pick it out. Because you don't worry about equity at that point. That was our biggest argument in that one. If you're thinking about trying to make improvements and making some money on the deal from an investment standpoint, probably looking at resale. That's just another point that always comes up. It seems like that's very
and there's two different. And
I
guess we really didn't touch on resale of a dated resale home versus a renovated resale home where somebody like a flipper would come in and do those renovations, and you're buying it at market value. But to your point, buying something older that's dated, doing those improvements yourself, you've got the equity that you can.
If you have
you've
cash,
got a little bit of that cushion
if you have cash
to do.
in your budget too. I mean, if you don't have cash in your budget, you're trying to wrap everything up and not have to do any maintenance for 10, 15 years. Like he said, let it get run down a little bit. Maybe new construction's your deal, but anyway, and that's figure out your market, talk with your agent, and go from there. So, or talk with us. We'll be happy to give you any opinion in the world, but other than that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Ryan, you got anything else?
The only other, point to touch on would be if anybody out there interested in off-market properties. So one of the things we're starting to do is throw together not only properties that are going to be available through the property management portfolio, owners that are looking to sell, but also, again, just properties we come across that, again, people would be willing to sell at the right price, but not necessarily looking to bring to market. We're going to start putting those on a universal platform. So shoot us an email, again, get on that list, and probably, we're going to throw it on maybe a Google Doc or Google Drive, something like that. Just share that anybody can log in at any time and see it updated in real time.
That's what we're trying to do.
So, but either way, again, shoot an email over and we'll get you on that list. So aside from that,
and just lastly, I just wanted to say thanks to Chip over at Good Cheek Coffee for allowing us to kind of invade his space this morning and give us a fresh background.
Something different.
Beautiful Mr. Coho, this whatever acrylic on canvas picture here is.
And the nice little bonsai here.
And we got a bonsai bush trying to give us some good energy for the day. I sound like a
good zen
right now. So, but that's okay. So other than that, guys, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, see you.
All right, let's get I still have the outro here to play. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, there's a few things I'd like you to do. Subscribe, leave a review, and head over to NoBSRealEstatePodcast.com where you can connect with Matt and I on all of the platforms we're on. Also, if you could do us a favor, leave a message letting us know what you enjoyed about the episode and what you'd like to hear about going forward.
Publish this bitch.